Hey everyone, and welcome back to another J the One Night Gamer video, and today we're going to be taking a look at the big amount of information that dropped courtesy of the Samurai Warriors 5 second live stream that they held, which gave us more than just one brand new character reveal, and also a look at a couple of returning characters, but more importantly, also showed us off some gameplay, and they did talk about the gameplay systems itself and the mechanics, so we're going to jump right into that. I'm pretty sure a lot of people besides myself really want to know how the combat of Samurai Warriors 5 is going to handle. Before we start talking about the combat proper, I do want to give a big shout out to a Twitch user called Black Kite, who has done a phenomenal job of translating all the information that happened during the live stream for us into English, and where I got actually most of this combat data from himself. So if you guys are on Twitter, please feel free to give them a follow. They do a really great job of translating, and they're a really great person also. I just wanted to let you guys know that that's where I got this information from. So diving right into the combat of Samurai Warriors 5, we are actually told that it's going to have the same combat system basically as Dynasty Warriors 7 and Dynasty Warriors 8, where essentially you're going to be able to have a switch mechanic where the characters have two weapon types they can switch between. So it's very interesting that they're taking a known method for another Warriors franchise and giving it to another one. That's kind of why we're seeing a lot of the clone weapons, and we might see some clone movesets, but from the translation that Black Kite gave us, they hinted that if a character uses their favorite weapon like they did in Dynasty Warriors 7 and 8, the tweet states that it's going to come out in the form of like charge attacks with different varieties. I'm led to believe that two different schools of thought, how you want to look at it. One that could look like an EX attack like they had in Dynasty Warriors 7 and 8, where essentially, you know, the characters get an extra move or two to differentiate themselves between characters who use the same moveset. Or another train of thought I've seen people talk about is the fact that they might actually mean they get unique charge moves themselves. So like they'll have the same normal attack string, but when they do charge attacks, their charge attacks will be different as opposed to the other character who would use it. And I'm led to kind of believe in that camp only because when you see the gameplay with Hideyoshi, who's using a Naginata alongside one of the new characters who's revealed that's going to be using the same weapon, I highly doubt she's going to pretty much do most of the crazy stuff that he does in the gameplay video, because he just looks acrobatic as hell. And the character I'll talk about later, she doesn't seem like she couldn't do it, but I feel like her design and maybe her personality wouldn't lend itself well to copying that kind of charge moveset. But I could be completely wrong in that assumption, and it might just be EXs. But we also know that every character is going to get a unique R1 special, which I think is the ultimate skill special they're talking about, but there hasn't been much information on that as well. But another nice thing is that we do know that the combat system is a charge system like the old games, not something like the Renbu system from Dynasty Warriors 6 or the state combo system from Dynasty Warriors 9. So that should alleviate a lot of fears. But like I said, since there's going to be a changeable weapon system like they had in Dynasty Warriors 7 and 8, that means that you will see a lot of similarities, and that's why we're also seeing a lot of the clone weapons being portrayed. Another thing is there's only going to be a grand total of 15 weapon types in the game, so we are definitely going to see a lot of repeats. I'm just hopeful that, like I said with the latter, that when they have their favorite weapon on, that their charge attacks are completely different from one another, so that way when they are using their favorite weapon, they can feel incredibly unique to each other. They'll just share the same normal string, but the charge strings will be different. We also know that the hyper attack system is back, and something else that is making a comeback also from previous Samurai Warriors titles is the ability to switch between two characters during the map. So that's very interesting that they're still keeping some of the unique stuff that makes Samurai Warriors, but adding a little bit of the Dynasty Warrior flavor in there to get a better amalgamation of both franchises. So I'm very interested with that, and like I said, we have a small pool of usable weapons, only 15. And another thing we don't know if we're also going to get the different types that we got from Samurai Warriors, you know, like power types, hyper types, normal types, special types, all of those. We don't know if that's making a comeback as well, but I'm very hopeful, and like I said, seeing the game in action really alleviated some of my fears, and I'm kind of okay with the weapon switching system because Dynasty Warriors 7 and 8 are pretty much some of my favorite games in the entire franchise, and the trade-off is there's not as much weapons that were in those games for the characters, but if they're willing to give every character, like I said, unique charge strings for their favorite weapons, then I think this will be perfectly fine in my opinion. And that's kind of going to do it for the gameplay mechanics that we were told about this time around. They might show a little more off in the next live stream whenever that happens. And moving on from that, let's finally take a look at the new characters that were revealed. But first, let's take a look at the two returning characters revealed who I think are fan favorites for everyone and honestly have really interesting designs in my personal opinion. Alright, and first up on the returning character chopping block is everyone's favorite lazy boy strategist himself, Takanaka Hanbei. And what I find very interesting about his redesign is it doesn't seem that too far-fetched from his old designs. He basically still has that same hat motif and he still looks kind of young. The only thing that looks different about him is his hair. I think it's gray at this point to, I guess, show off that he's a little older. Honestly, I was never a big fan of Hanbei's playstyles myself, so I'm very interested to see how he's going to play now that he doesn't have that weird compass blade anymore, and instead he's wielding a drum, which looks very interesting, but for some reason feels like it still fits with his character of being like a lazy strategist. I'm just kind of curious to see how his interaction with Hideyoshi is going to be this time around, along with, you know, maybe Toshiie and of course Nobunaga, because in all the games we've never really seen him interact with Nobunaga himself. He's usually interacted with Mitsuhide, Lady No, primarily with Hideyoshi, and of course primarily with the next guy we're going to talk about. But before that, you know, if I had to say his redesign, I think it looks pretty good. I feel like it's pretty safe to him as a character, and yeah, you know what? Nothing else I can say about him. Then, of course, when you're talking about Hanbei, his best buddy, Gloomy Strategist, won't be too far behind, and of course, we're talking about our lovely boy here, Jia Chong. What are you doing here? I thought you were in Dynasty Warriors, not Samurai Warriors. But no, that is actually Kuroda Kanbei. Honestly, he looks drastically different from his old redesigns. Gone is that, I want to say, like, skunk hair motif, where one half is black and the other half is white, and Gone is his really pale looking self. He's still kind of pale looking, but he looks a lot more youthful. And also, Gone is his traditional orb moveset that he's been using. Instead, he's using talismans, which is going to act the same way as I think Oichi's origami. So that's cool, and I want to see how different their playstyles will be, hopefully based on that. And what I also like about this is, did Jia Chong play a big influence on his character redesign? Because you can't look at this guy and tell me that he doesn't look like him from some aspect, and maybe his personality will be the same. Because remember, in the other games, he's always been touted as like this very dark, serious, cold, calculative strategist, but who also had somewhat of a heart of gold, as opposed to Hanbei, who was a lot more ruthless apparently. So I'm very curious to see if this redesign is going to change that personality aspect as well, because I want to see how him and Hanbei are going to react to each other. And not only that, I'd like to see how Kanbei is going to react to the rest of the group as well, because again, like Hanbei, he primarily deals with Hideyoshi, but remember, he is still part of the Oda regime right now. So I'd love to see how he interacts with the rest of the cast as well. You know, Nobunaga, No, Mitsuhide. Like, I'd love to see more interaction outside of just the norms. And just a little fun aspect, did you guys ever notice how Hanbei and Kanbei kind of rhyme together? I know that's not really worth talking about, but I just find it kind of funny and silly in my opinion. I'm really liking these character redesigns, and now we can finally start talking about the brand new characters we revealed during the live stream, and boy, do they seem interesting, let me tell you. And now we can finally start talking about the 3 brand new playable characters that were revealed during the live stream. I want to preface this by saying I apologize immensely if I butcher any of these pronunciations of the names. And honestly, for most of them, I pretty much don't know a lot about them. They've never really been talked about or given a lot of information during the franchises themselves. So this is very entertaining, I feel. And the first one we're going to talk about, the 3, is the brand new pretty boy himself, a Mr. Yamanaka Shikasuke. And like I said, I apologize immensely if I butchered that name. And what's kind of interesting is the fact that he's considered to deal with a Mori. And if you guys don't know, Nobunaga doesn't really deal with the Mori. That's more of Hideyoshi's side of things. And I find that interesting because from what we know of him, from what Koei says in their official statement about him, he is the Imago family's retainer, a cheerful young man with a frank personality. He meets Mitsuhide when he was being attacked by the Mori during an arduous battle. From then on, he began to work alongside Mitsuhide while working to restore the Imago's family to their former glory. And honestly, I have no idea what any of that means. All I know is that just means he has a strong connection with Mitsuhide. And if we take a look at his design, he definitely looks like a pretty boy, like the standard pretty boys you would see in the franchise. But I find what very interesting about him is his headwear. As you can see, it's pretty much a visor with horns on it, and I'm kind of curious to see why they did that, but that's cosmetics in my opinion. And he's going to be wielding dual swords like Ieyasu Tokugawa. Like I've been saying in the video, I kind of hope he gets his own charge moveset to make him more unique than Ieyasu. And honestly, I don't know a lot about this character, like I said, from what we just read of his bio that they gave out. But all in all, I think he looks like a very interesting character. Like I said, the twin sword moveset in the gameplay you can probably see looks very entertaining. So I feel like he'll be a very fun character to interact with. And honestly, I don't know how he's going to interact with the rest of the cast itself. We do know he has that bond with Mitsuhide, but I don't know if that's going to translate to the rest of the cast. Like, you know, is he going to develop some kind of bond with Hideyoshi? Is he going to develop some kind of bond with, you know, Hanbei or any of the other characters? And what they're going to do with his story. And honestly, I wonder if they're going to take him all the way to Mitsuhide's death at Yamazaki. But all in all, I think his design's really nice. He looks like he's going to be an interesting character. And I'm always interested to see what kind of new stories they add to the franchise with these characters. So I'm very interested to see where he's going to go going forward. All right, next up, we're going to talk about the brand new ninja who was revealed, and that is Nakamura Kazuji. And again, I apologize if I butchered that name. And I find this character very interesting looking because he does seem to go off a more stereotypical what we'd think of a ninja, I guess. He's wearing darker colors so he can blend in with the night, and he is a former Koga ninja. And what's also funny is they say that he's also friends with Mutsuki because they were both raised to be ninjas, and apparently he's going to have a strong attachment to Hideyoshi, who apparently picked him up after a certain family gets defeated by the Oda. So I'm very interested to see how that's going to play out. And what's even more interesting is his choice of weapons, which we haven't actually got an official name at, but you can see he's basically wielding what looks like two kind of pistols in my opinion. And honestly, all I kept thinking was like, god damn, apparently we got Dante from Devil May Cry in here with his dual wielding pistols. I'm very curious to see how he's going to interact with Mutsuki, Hideyoshi, and how he's also going to fit into Hideyoshi's forces themselves. So I find him a very interesting character, and like I said before, I don't really have a lot of information on these guys, but you know, just from his design alone and from what I read of his bio, he seems like he's going to be pretty interesting to, you know, play play and probably see develop throughout the game. At least that's my hope anyway. And now we come to the final new character that was revealed during the live stream, and the one that I think the fan base has gravitated to the most since she was revealed, and that is Senna, and she is basically Ieyasu's first wife and also Imagawa Yoshimoto's niece. And historically, it's very interesting to talk about her because from what I understand is she's the wife that Tokugawa had to execute because Nobunaga thought she was plotting with another daimyo, and that also led to him having his son with her commit seppuku so he wouldn't avenge his mother's death. So that's kind of dark for the franchise if they decide to actually act on that. But honestly, like I said, the fan base seems to really love her because she seems to be like a thick, big girl. And honestly, I think her design's very interesting. She looks definitely very regal, but they also say that she's very sympathetic and caring towards Ieyasu. So I'm very curious to see how her story is going to play in Ieyasu's story up until her eventual death, obviously, and how she might interact with Oda Nobunaga, maybe Lady No, and how she'll also act with Tadakatsu and Hanzo because they're all Tokugawa retainers. And some people have stated that she also shares somewhat of a similarity with Genji, but I think that's just the hair, maybe the face a little too. But moving besides that, we also get to see what her weapon is going to be, and that's going to be a Naginata, so same as Hideyoshi. And if you've seen any of the gameplay, hopefully so far with Hideyoshi, you've seen that his charge strings are very ridiculously acrobatic, and I don't think Senna is going to have that same level of agility. She definitely could, don't get me wrong, but I kind of hope this means, like I said throughout the videos, that these characters that have clone weapons will get like brand new or unique charge attacks to, you know, mimic their personalities. But all in all, like I said, the fan base is really loving Senna. I like her design very much, and a lot of people like me seem to think that she is actually going to be the last female character revealed for the game. And the reason for that is because if you look at the silhouettes of the character roster that they showed off, none of the remaining shadows kind of give off, I guess, a female body type or vibe to them. So that is kind of sad because that means we're definitely not going to see Nene, and we're definitely not going to see Il Neotora. And I know Neotora is a very popular character, so that is kind of sad that we're not going to get to see them because Neotora would kind of only exist in this time frame because she dies the same year as Oda Nobunaga. But for Senna herself, I really like her. I think I might understand why some of the fans and the fan base really enjoy her character, or at least her design. And I'm also interested to see how dark Samurai Warriors 5 story might go with this, because we do have some characters here that end up with some pretty tragic deaths. And I just want to know, like, how is Samurai Warriors 5 going to handle those, and are they going to make them very emotional and impactful, which I'm kind of hopeful is the case. If the story is great and the gameplay is fun as well, we could be looking at considerably like what Dynasty Warriors 7 I think did for the Dynasty Warriors franchise. And I honestly think Dynasty Warriors 7 was the best story and characterization of those characters ever. Like, none of the other Dynasty Warrior games after that have even come close to giving them some level of complexity, and I kind of hope Samurai Warriors 5 does that for the Samurai Warriors franchise. And with this, guys, we come to the end of all the new information that was given to us during the Samurai Warriors 5 second live stream. And honestly, this has got me excited for the next live stream because we did get a big chunk of gameplay shown off, almost I think like 15 minutes worth of it, and we got not just one but 3 brand new playable character reveals and 2 return character reveals as well. So that's really cool. And with all that information, I'm going to make a prediction. I think out of the 9 characters left to be revealed, I believe that 3 of them are going to be brand new playable characters and the remaining 6 are going to be the returning characters. Now, I could be completely wrong in my prediction and we could end up with a different number, so please tell me in the comments how many new characters do you think are going to come back, and are you also kind of disappointed that Senna might be the last female character revealed for the game, which means we definitely won't be seeing Nene or Il Neotora, which I think is sad because Nene is my #1 favorite female character in the Samurai Warriors franchise, and I know Neotora is extremely popular in the franchise as well, so it's kind of interesting to see their omission in this. But, you know, also feel free to leave in the comments section any information I might have missed on these brand new playable characters, because there probably was a decent amount, because I would like to learn more about them, and I think it'd be fun to have a little conversation about who we might see as brand new playable characters. If I had to put one hat in, I hope we get Nagahide Niwa, who is considered basically like Oda's brother, but they might shift that role to Toshiie. But I think this would be a great time to finally make him playable, but that's my own personal opinion. And again, I want to give a big thank you to Black Kite for all the translations. Guys, if you're on Twitter, please give them a follow. They do great work and they are a nice person to talk to. And with that, you know, if you're still here, I want to thank you very much for watching the video. I want you all to have a great day, and remember, let's rock!